to the Narrative Podcast with Halsey Allen. The Narrative Podcast is changing the narrative one episode at a time.
Hello. Welcome to another edition of the Narrative Podcast, and I'm your host, Halsey Allen. The Narrative Podcast is the original people, is the home of the original, or of original people, messing up on my intro. The Narrative Podcast is the home of original people peace, original people reciprocity, and original people culture. Welcome to the Narrative Podcast. Welcome all my narrators. How's everybody doing today on this, fine Saturday? Well, I hope. Well, I would assume. We're at the halfway point. This month is almost over. We're fortunate enough to observe our people, original people, to just observe and pay homage to all we've accomplished as a people, which can't be accomplished in 27 days. It really can't even be accomplished in 30, even if we had a full 30 for everything we brought to the world and we brought to the table. But, it is what it is. But, we're glad to be celebrating it here on the Narrative Podcast. So, like I said, welcome all my narrators. My narrators, they already know the demonstration. They already know what the Narrative Podcast is all about. They already know, my program format, and, they all know, aware of all the nuances about the Narrative Podcast and why I started doing it, and, how I'm going to present the content to the listening audience, why I'm presenting the content to the listening audience. But for the new people, they obviously don't know that. So on every show, I'll walk you through an overview of the Narrative Podcast before diving into the content. And today's no different. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of the Narrative Podcast before diving into the content today on the Narrative Podcast, on today's full edition of the Narrative Podcast, because I broadcast 2 times a week, but I get more into that, after the rundown. So without any further ado, we're diving straight on in. Brief synopsis of the Narrative Podcast. Starting at the top, Tippy, the name, the Narrative Podcast. I named my podcast the Narrative Podcast because I don't like the false narrative that the media weaves about original people and original people culture. So what I did is I designed this platform to, counter our people being misrepresented in the eye of the media. The media intentionally misrepresents our people and our culture. They primarily do it for profit, to sell news, because let's face it, we're pretty much the most interesting people on the planet. When are we never not newsworthy, no matter what we're doing, positive or negative? But in addition to that, the media is ran by the powers that be. And who are the powers that be? The powers that be are the higher echelon, elite society, capitalists, the creme de la creme, aka, the corporation, aka wealthy white people. So they basically use the media to spread propaganda. The reason why they do that is because they want to project the image of sophistication. They want to project the image of high refinement, of extreme culture. Basically, they want to present themselves as, the end all be all, they want to present themselves as the face of, financial wealth and refinement. And how they obtain this image is basically using the media and other sources to, make anybody else who isn't, in that tax bracket appear degenerate and, well, if you're not in this tax bracket, what are you doing? That's what they want to project that image like, But they do it to everybody who isn't, a high society type. They do it to all classes of people. But they primarily do it to our people, original people. They do it to our people the most because our people are a direct threat to their way of life. The reason why we threaten their way of life is because, they know they got everything basically from us. They stole everything from us. They're aware of their history and they're aware of ours. They know how they acquired all their financial resources. They know how they, rose into power, into, all different areas of the globe, all different walks of life, what they did to the original indigenous people of the land everywhere. And so basically, our people is the biggest reminder of that, because everything they tried to do to us failed. We still managed to excel, and despite all their resources and despite them, trying to control everything, everybody still, looks to us and wants to be like us and not like them. And so basically, we threaten their power structure. They feel threatened by us. That's why they go through, such extreme lengths to put out these false narratives about our people and our culture. They want to go out of their way to make us look like, don't ever be like this. This is, those people, they're not it. That's what you don't want to be. But, as I said, they pick on our people the most because they fear our people the most. And their biggest fear about our people is that, one day we would realize, or we would act, how we remember it, and reclaim everything they stole from us and do to them what they've done and are currently doing to us. But it's an ill-gotten fear, because that's not the true nature of our people. That's not who we are as a people. We don't have a history of, taking things that don't belong to us, forcing our ideas, our beliefs, and our value systems on other people, saying we invented things we didn't invent, saying we discovered things that we did not discover. Just basically stealing in line. We don't have a history of doing that. It's not us, that's them, and they know it. But I digress. That's the perfect segue to my tagline. The Narrative Podcast, changing the narrative one episode at a time by destroying negative stereotypes about original people and original people culture. How do we destroy the negative stereotypes about our people and our culture? By providing positive frames of reference about our people and our culture. And that's entirely what the Narrative Podcast is all about. That's my mission statement, to bring awareness to the listening audience of why it's important to share positive frames of reference about our people and our culture, to encourage the listeners to, responsibly use their platforms to share positive frames of reference about our people and our culture. When my podcast is not about seeking validation from people outside of our culture. It's not about even trying to enlighten people outside of our culture about our people and our culture. This is about basically telling the truth. If you're going to, use our images and our likenesses publicly, you're going to tell our story correctly. And what is the correct story about our people? How should we always be representing and portrayed as queens and kings, gods and goddesses of the universe? That's, that should always be the focal point. That should always be the accurate portrayal of our people, no matter what we're going through. Wrong is wrong, If you did something wrong, it should be, But, that's the accurate portrayal of us as a people. And that's what that's the focal point of the Narrative Podcast, is to bring that awareness of who we are as a people and encourage other people to do the same. Which brings me to my next point, my listening audience. I call my listening audience my narrators. I call my listening audience my narrators because we're now living in the digital information age, and everybody, has an opportunity to tell their own stories, to tell or narrate their own stories. We're living in the digital information age. People associate you as a person based on what you're posting online. They, associate you with you as a person with, what you're posting online, like your ideas, your value systems, your what you believe in, your hobbies, your interests. Not only that, the Fortune 500 companies, that's how, they market and sell things to people as well in this digital information age. So, they're monitoring trends, they're monitoring, page hits. I think that it's called cookies. They're looking at cookies, what you're clicking on. And they're compiling all that data and creating products to appeal to, that specific need, or what they view as a need for the product. And the biggest product right now that's being marketed to our people is degeneracy. So that's what, these Fortune 500 companies are manufacturing and distributing to our people is degeneracy. It's like $1 trillion a year business of filth and smut. They're promoting and endorsing gang culture, drug culture, pimp culture, whore culture, drug culture. I think I said drug culture, like from the using end of it and from the dealing perspective of it. And basically just trying to market our people as unintelligent, unrefined, savage, ignorant, lazy, etc. All these negative stereotypes and stigmas, propagated by the powers that be about our people. So like I said, the media is ran by an evil, wicked entity, but at the end of the day, it's business. And the first rule of business is supply and demand. So like that's the product that they're creating. And unfortunately, we as a people are supporting these negative stereotypes and stigmas propagated about us. Matter of fact, we're not only supporting it, we're reinforcing it by, regurgitating it online. So that's what I mean when I call my target listening audience my narrators, because we can change the narrative by telling our own stories online. Like, we can put out positive stories about our people and our culture online. That's kind of what I try to get people to do, to listen to my podcast and bring awareness to that, of why it's so important. It's not the end-all, be-all solution, but it is a solution. So, the more these corporations notice we're not with all that, they'll create product to accommodate the things that we're into. And what should we be into? We should be into stories about leadership, entrepreneurship, building our communities, thriving as a people, doing for self, unifying, taking care of our children, taking care of our elderly, financially, economically, and socially, sustaining ourselves without any assistance from outside sources. That's, what we should always be projecting online. So, that's like the primary goal of the Narrative Podcast. Some other nuances about the Narrative Podcast. This is a positive space. I don't do any negativity. I'm not with the foolishness. I'm not with the shenanigans. I don't, feed into gossip and rumors. I really try to use my platform to discourage against gossip and rumors. I don't, we're the only people to get attacked from all sides. The last thing we should, as a people, be doing is using our platforms to tear each other down. We should be uplifting and edifying our people, and that's, primarily my main goal. What I try to, tailor my content to do is to uplift and edify our people. We shouldn't be, trading insults and trading jabs online and all that foolishness. So I try not to do that. What I do on my platform is tell the truth. I try not to name drop celebrities, but when I'm name dropping, when I'm talking about current issues, something that involves somebody, an entertainer from our community, if I bring their name up when I'm doing commentary, I deliver all my content from the perspective of okay, yes, we have our in-house issues. We need to work on this, that, and the third. We need to do better in this area and that area as a people. But I focus all my content on the more of, why did that happen? What is the catalyst behind this behavior? And the catalyst behind, all our negative behavior is, systemic oppression in environment and, things of that nature. And that's probably the only reason why I would bring a famous person's name up, the why factor. Now, what I do on my podcast is I do tell the truth. If a famous person is, irresponsibly using their platform, if they have a polarizing platform and they're intentionally misrepresenting our people for likes, clicks, and views, or to, try to sell a product by playing up negative stereotypes and stigmas, I will call that behavior out. But other than that, I don't, endorse, promote, or engage in slander against our people. Next order of business about the Narrative Podcast, before diving into the contents and stuff you should know. On this platform, I refer to our people as original people. The reason why I feel that, for a couple of reasons. It's an accurate description of us historically, and then it also unifies us as a people. So on the historical side, why is that accurate? Because we were and are the original people of this planet. We was here first. There was not, one corner of the globe that we didn't already previously exist, especially here in the Americas, especially any place with a Spanish-speaking population. Like I said, the powers that be just keep on weaving this false narrative about how we came to be, like slavery, like our civilization, like our existence on this planet began with slavery, and it didn't. So while slavery did happen, and it was a real thing, it's exaggerated about, our involvement in the slave trade, how long it actually took place, and, the false narrative that every single last one of us was products of slavery, when in fact, like I said, we're the original man and woman of this planet. There was not one corner of the globe that we didn't originally inhabit. And we didn't get to all them places via the slave trade. We were just already there. So that's what I mean by original people on the historical side of it. And then another false narrative, we didn't evolve from monkeys. We weren't, dwelling in caves, using prehistoric weapons and tools. We was always highly advanced, always highly civilized, fully sentient, erect, standing up straight, building advanced architecture, advanced cities, citadels, statues. Anywhere you ever want to know where our people once existed, all you ever have to do is look at the artwork and the paintings. And you will notice, like artwork and the paintings, different hues of melanin, African features in the, in the statues. Like I said, our existence on this planet predates all religious tract, all recording devices, like anything you can use to charts, catalog, or, record. Like our existence predates all of that. It predates the Bible, it predates the Quran, it predates all religious tract. It even predates, the hieroglyphs and the papyrus and the scrolls and the Sanskrits. But I digress. And so what the second reason why I refer to our people as original people, it unifies us as a people. Because like I said, there are so many different types of us, hailing from so many different land masses, speaking different languages, believing in different religions, spirituality practices, political views, anything you can divide a people, we have that within our community. But unfortunately, we as a people are the ones that cause all this division amongst us. We refer to ourselves as different. This person's from Jamaica, I'm Jamaican, I'm Nigerian, I'm from Ghana, I'm from the UK, or I'm from Canada, or wherever. But the one thing we all have in common, we all possess melanin, aka carbon. We can all as a people, all trace our lineage back to the original point of origin for all civilization. That's what we have in common as a people, that we were here first, like we're all original. And that's why I refer to our people as original people. Because people outside of our culture, they just lump us all into one category anyway. They just say, you're black. No matter what part of Brazil or Cuba or Panama you from, they gonna call you black. No matter, what part of Asia you're from, Japan, yeah, Korea, Taiwan, whatever, they're going to call you black. And yeah, like I said, our people, we was the original people. We was everywhere. We inhabited every corner of the globe. We was already there. But yeah, next order of business. This is a time-sensitive platform. I try not to exceed 1 hour per broadcast, and the reason why I do that is because it's an audio platform. I want to fully engage my listeners, keeping you all attentive and listening to the content, and keeping you entertained at the same time, and keeping my content cohesive and fresh and digestible and relatable. And I can't do that if I'm boring you to sleep. So for that, I try not to exceed, 1 hour per broadcast. And also I try not to, just drone on talking and talking and talking. So with a full episode of Narrative Podcast, it's broken down into sections. Each section has a speaking point, and I try to time each section as I come to them. So I try not to exceed X amount of minutes on each section. So, and that's how I keep it, fresh and innovative and, interesting to listen to. But so now you pretty much got the gist of how the Narrative Podcast works. Without any further ado, I'm going to dive into the content. with my very first section of the Narrative Podcast. This section is called the highlight section. In this section, what I'm doing is I'm highlighting businesses owned and operated by original people. And the reason why I'm doing that is to, stay true to my mission statement, which is to provide positive frames of reference about our people and our culture. And, the frame of reference about entrepreneurialism is something that we're severely lacking in as a people. And partially it's due to, the very few frames of references, that we have about our people and our culture is, comes via reality television shows. And the producers on those types of shows, they get successful people within our community who are serial entrepreneurs, own several different companies and have, several different entities under their umbrella. But they get them on television and they basically, flip the narrative and, have them pretty much catching them in rare form on TV, acting a darn fool. They want to promote degeneracy. They want to, have us on camera fighting each other, cussing each other out, backstabbing each other, engaging in alcohol, drugs, and all kind of lewdness and crudeness, having sex on camera, and just basically carrying and conducting ourselves, like nobody attempted to raise us. Meanwhile, in all that toxicity and degeneracy, deflects away from the main part of the show, that these are like highly financially successful, well-to-do brothers and sisters, taking care of several families, taking care of several communities. But we don't get all that because all they do is shove the degeneracy and toxicity in front of our face. So, all that excellence is negated. So in this section on the highlight section, what I do is I walk you through an entrepreneur's journey, how they started their own businesses, and everything, their entire journey, how they started out, how they came up with the idea, if they needed some type of education to be in that type of field, where did they go, how they get it, what year they started, and what they do for the community. So, that's what I do in the highlight section. Some other things, some other qualifying factors for the highlight section, the businesses I select to highlight. Of course, they're owned and operated by original people. They hire their own. Many of them are family owned and operated. So in that instance, I would be giving you a positive frame of reference about generational wealth. And then also the types of people that I highlight in the highlight section, they're all involved in some type of philanthropy, some type of giving back to the community, providing services, for the area that they're rooted in, such as, some type of scholastic, some type of, nonprofit organization, whether they're paying into it or one of their very own accord. But definitely giving back to the community to some capacity. And then my last qualifying factor is it aligns up, with my theme. And the theme that I'm doing is seasons. So something seasonal, something you would think of when you think of this season of, spring, summer, fall, winter, etc. So yeah, that's what the highlight section on the Narrative Podcast is all about. So diving right into the highlight section. Oh, well, like I said, I do seasonal themes. So today is February 24th, and it is National Introduce a Girl to Engineering Day. So the businesses that I will be highlighting in the highlight section of the Narrative Podcast are original people-owned and operated engineering firms. So the first business I'll be highlighting today on the Narrative Podcast is Abe's Engineering. And you can find Abe's at www.abesengineering.com. Physical address 2500 Mount Moriah Road, H229, Memphis, Tennessee 38115. It was established in 2015 by a brother by the name of Emmanuel Tumba. I believe this brother is of Nigerian descent, so if I mispronounce his name, forgive me. But yeah, that sounds about right to me. Tumbe, Tumbe. And then I might have been mistaken because he is from Rwanda. So Rwanda is actually like East Africa, in the eastern part of Africa. But anyway, so he grew up in Rwanda post-genocide during the civil war that took place in the 1990s. He used education as a coping mechanism to deal with, all the horrific things going around him. He heavily immersed himself into his studies, and he discovered he enjoyed, out of all the subjects he was studying at school, he enjoyed math the best. Mathematics became his favorite subject. It became clear to him that infrastructure could mean literally the difference between life and death. Sometime later, he moved to America and earned his degree in civil and environmental engineering from South Dakota in 2007. Before officially launching, or after graduation, I jumped ahead of myself. He worked several engineering jobs, and then, just saving his money, he decided to launch his own engineering firm. In 2015. So he worked like a whole bunch of, engineer firms, just building up his credentials. He was pretty much making some really good money, easily 6 figures. But he decided to just go ahead on and opened up his own business, but before doing that, he created formed a nonprofit organization called Engineers with Borders in Rwanda, and then one in Gabon, and then eventually he started an international one, so the EWB in like European countries as well. And what they do is they basically just provide, clean resources, clean energy alternatives such as like solar panel, solar power, and then clean, drinkable, potable water and other different parts of the world. And they do it through like, underground sources of water, like thermal water and storm drain, like how to convert, drinkable, potable water out of rainwater, that type of thing. And then they also have a initiative where they're training young people between the, like from 14 to like 40, the skills they need to get into engineering, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, technology, and all that, to change their trajectory in life, to get into that field. Now, locally in Memphis, what he does is assist other black-owned companies in how to grow their companies and obtain the licenses, all the license required to operate them. So their core values is to give back, impact communities, perform as a team, and communicate effectively, and excel client education. So, that's what Abe's Engineering does. They're all, like I said, it gives back to the community with the EWB program, but he always has open positions, and he has positions in that company that doesn't require. He has positions, entry-level positions that doesn't require degrees, and they also have, internships and other programs to help you get the job for the positions that do require, engineering certification. So if you're in, the Memphis area and you need a job, you might want to hit Abe's up, So that's it, and that's all for that one. That brother uses his business to uplift and edify, his community. Didn't forget his people in his homeland, and also helping his people here right on U.S. soil, even though he's not, native to America. So without any further ado, let's give it up for our brother Emmanuel Tumbe in Abe's Engineering. All right, so moving right along, this next business I'll be covering on the highlight section of the Narrative Podcast is about Peer Consultants PC. And you can reach Peer Consultants PC at peerpc.com. Telephone number is 202 478-2060. If you want specific details about it, it's just, you can message them directly at info@peerpc.com with specific questions, and members of the press can use that. It was established in 1978 by a sister by the name of Layla A. Abram. She was born in 1945, Memphis, Tennessee. Her father was a school principal. Her mother was a school teacher that taught geography. This sister bio is extremely long, so I'm just giving you the heads up. I'm giving you the condensed version, just the highlights of things I think are important to walk you through the process of why she started her own engineering firm. She attended Lemoyne College in Memphis and earned her MS degree in sanitary engineering from Washington University in St. University in St. Louis in 1968. After 68, she worked for the KC Water Department, Kentucky Water Department. She also became a research engineer for the Metropolitan City of Chicago Sanitation District, received chemical engineering PhD in 1972 from the University of Iowa. She started Peer Consultants after serving as a faculty member at Howard University. Her role at Howard University was an assistant professor in civil engineering. And then some other notable things. She was a member of Delta Sigma. She was the first sister ever. She attended the first Earth Day ever, which was in 1970. She was the first sister to hold a PhD in chemical engineering and first sister to have their own engineering firm. So when you go on the website, it's an equal opportunity employer. They don't discriminate against age, sex. It's all fair all across the board. But her positions, do require at least 1 year of, engineering. Like you have to have some type of training to work there at PC Consultants, but they have their own, training programs you can acquire about to get you on the trajectory to get a job to work for her. She also supports the EWB, like I said, in the beginning section about the other company. So she gives back to the community by providing diversity and inclusion. She's a matriarch. She wore so many hats. Like I would have been 3 hours if I were just running down her resume, everything this lady has done within her life. She's also, a public speaker. She does TED Talks. She's active on YouTube. She's almost like, almost 100 years old. She's like using this digital media to reach out to the masses. She's active on X. She's active on YouTube. She has people help her do the TikToks. does TED Talks. She's even doing her own like Black History Facts right now this month. Talking about people that influenced her to become a engineer. And then another factoid, she is big on environment. She's big on the ecosystem. She's big on making Earth clean and a clean place to live. She's big on the environment, the trees, and the water, and all that, and wildlife. So she's a force in that area too. So without any further ado, give it up for our sister, our Queen Mother, Matriarch, Layla A. Abram, and Peer Consultants, PC. Now this one's going to be super speedy because there just wasn't a whole lot of background coverage for this brother. He doesn't have a whole lot of things listed about him, so it's just like super generic to the point. But sometimes it just be like that. I try to walk you through their journey, but some people just want to have their lives private, and he's one of them. There just wasn't a whole lot there as far as how he started his journey, how he grew up, But he's doing some fantastic things despite that. So the next business I'll be highlighting in the highlight section is Millhouse Engineering. Go to millhouseinc.com. The physical address is 333 South Wabash Avenue, 2901, Chicago, Illinois, 60604. Telephone number 312-98-0061. It was established in 21 by a brother by the name of Wilbur C. Millhouse III. And like I said, he didn't really have much in the bio. He's just basically a Chicago native. He was born and raised in Chicago. Didn't say what side. He's always had an affinity for school, studying. Math was his favorite subject, obviously. Early in his life, he knew he wanted to be an engineer. He attended the University of Illinois with the MS in structural engineering and civil engineering, and a BS in civil engineering. While there, he served on multiple boards, college boards, the Engineering Board of Visitors, and the Alumni Association Board of Directors. He also has his own nonprofit organization. He has his own nonprofit organization called Millhouse Charities. And what that is basically a STEM initiative program to change the, I hate this word, young people from underserved communities trajectory. I just hate the word because I just feel like it's a dog whistle for our people, but it's not, that we're all poor. It's just because they refuse to provide us the service. But anyway, it's a initiative for underserved communities to get them the training they need to get them a career in STEM. science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So, yeah, that's, like I said, it was just short and brief and to a point. Not much in his bio. He's a philanthropist, so he does a lot of TED Talks. He has an open door policy at his firm, and then if you don't have the skills to get a job, he definitely got programs that you can look up and inquire about to get you the skills you need to get a job working there. So that's how he's giving back to the community, all inclusion, providing for his people. So join me into giving our brother William Byrd C. Millhouse III a warm narrative podcast round of applause for Millhouse Engineering. Next section on the Narrative Podcast is the Spotlight section. Spotlight section is a section where we're spotlighting prominent figures within our community who have a polarizing platform to, represent our people in a positive way, either speaking on our issues or doing some type of philanthropy or giving back. Basically, this section is like the All Heroes Don't Wear Capes section. What I'm doing in this section is encouraging people to, responsibly use their platform to uplift and edify somebody in our community rather than, using their platform to, kick somebody down or sling mud or drag somebody through the mud. When I first started the Spotlight section, I just primarily focused on celebrities, entertainers, actors, actresses, comedians, recording artists, public figures, TikTokers, YouTubers, religious figures, things of that nature. But I kind of stepped away from that because I don't want to reinforce the negative stereotype of, all our people know how to do is entertain. So as of late, I think I started like over the summer just spotlighting just like regular people. But not for nothing, I created the wave for spotlighting. Because before I added a spotlight section to my podcast, the Narrative Podcast, nobody was spotlighting anybody. So now every time you look up, somebody's spotlighting somebody. Somebody's saying, today when we have a special guest, we'll be spotlighting this, or today's spotlight is on this, that, etc. And, nobody was spotlighting anybody until I had a spotlight section to the Narrative Podcast. And I'm not mad. This isn't about, acknowledgement or money, really, because if it was about money, I would have quit on episode 1. Like, I started doing this during the quarantine lockdown. So, it's just always amazing I have that reach, even though nobody publicly shouts me out. Like, I just hear all these like famous people, you know, leaving a trail of breadcrumbs that they mess with my content, you know, my nuances, like things I say, the way I say stuff, you know, popping up in the feed from other people. So like I said, I don't feel slighted. It makes me feel good because the overall takeaway I want from the spotlight section is to, you know, give a brother or sister their just dues for doing something positive rather than utilizing their platform to, you know, say something negative about a brother and sister. So the fact so many people are doing it now, the fact so many people like, you know, are acknowledging my platform without, you know, verbally acknowledging my platform. Like, how do you say it without saying it type of deal. But to see so many people take my example that I'm setting, like, that's, you know, that's reward enough. So without, you know, I always got to bring that point up. So yeah, I just got to kind of pop my collar on that before diving into the spotlight section this week on the Narrative Podcast.
You are now listening to the Narrative Podcast with Halsey Allen. The Narrative Podcast is changing the narrative one episode at a time.
In a real way. All right, so without any further ado, this week's spotlight goes to a sister by the name of Jamila Parham. And the reason why she's getting the spotlight is before creating, she's the founder and CEO of a company called Tech Unicorn. And Tech Unicorn is a STEM-based initiative that addresses lack of diversity and inclusion in the engineering world. She was raised on the south side of Chicago. She has a BS in computer graphics, animation, that she received from the Pre-University. She's an MS project manager, a Keller grad, School of Management also. So if you want to know more about Tech Unicorn and her accomplishments there, just go to JamilaParham.com and you know, read the bio, her own personal bio, and the bio about Tech Unicorn. She's partnered with Verizon, The Root, Voyage of Chicago, Made Magazine, Women Tech, XO Nicole or Zo Nicole, a whole lot of other stuff. So like I said, it basically it's an initiative to reach out to underserved communities to teach them about a career in engineering, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. They got all kinds of programs. They primarily focus is geared towards sisters, women, original women. You know, that's the prime demographic. Mission statement is just basically to bridge the gap, breaking down barriers, providing access to resources through mentorship, personal and professional development workshops and programs. So, yeah. So, join me in a Warm Narrative podcast. Round of applause for our sister, Jamila Parham. Next section on the narrative podcast is the health and wellness section. And it is just like how it sounds. I'm going to be talking to you about tips about health and wellness. Why do I feel like I need to talk about health and wellness? Because my people, original people, we are like, it's going to sound bad when I say this, but we are really, really sick. And it's even going to sound even worse as I say it. Y'all make us sick. What I mean by y'all, like they're putting things in the air, food and water that harm specifically our people, and it's intentionally done. So what the health and wellness section is designed to do is to, help the listening audience, my people, my demographic. Well, I guess I should do a disclaimer before I dive any deeper. The disclaimer is anybody is welcome to listen to the narrative podcast. It's for anybody to listen to, anybody that wants to, feel enlightened, to feel, be properly educated about our people and our culture. They're more than welcome to listen to the narrative podcast and participate in the content that I'm presenting to the listening audience. But my target demographic for the narrative podcast is my people, original people, especially in this section, the health and wellness section, because, we're just all different. Everybody's different. We all have a different anatomy. We all have a different physiology. Climate affects us differently. We all have different dietetic needs. Within whereas like one culture that can eat a specific type of food and thrive for hundreds of years, but a person from another culture that can eat that same food and probably die within that, get unalived in that 1 year off that diet. So said all that to say, we're not the same. We all are living beings, but we all have different, physical needs, dietetic needs, spiritual and religious needs. We're all, different, mental health wise, culturally. So that's what the health and wellness section of the narrative podcast is designed to do, is to accommodate, the specific health needs of original people. So the types of things I usually discuss in this section of the narrative podcast is tips on the physical side of it. I usually discuss like the health benefits of a fruit, vegetable, plant, herb, or extract, or an elixir you can ingest or apply topically to improve your health, or some type of physical exercise you can perform to stay in peak physical condition. On the mental side of it, things you can do to improve your mental health. I give you tips about that. On the, spiritual side of it, religious stuff, spiritual stuff. I don't do economic because health is wealth. But basically, this section is designed to help my people armor up in all the areas that we're being attacked, which is spiritually, mentally, physically, spiritually, those type of tips. But today's tip is Mental Health Day. And I'm going to be talking about the importance of mindful breathing. So first of all, mindful breathing is a whole lot of things. It's used in all kinds of practices, all types of religious and spiritual practices. It's heavily used in yoga, mindful breathing. It's a form of meditation. It's a form of spirituality. It calms and cools your nervous system. It prevents you from having anxiety attacks. Helps you, on your self journey, identifying your own emotions, working past trauma. There's all types of different breathing, mindful breathing techniques that you can incorporate to use daily to help you with your mental health. But it is essential to do that. There's several different types of techniques. I'm not going to be breaking down the techniques. I just want to shine the spotlight on mindful breathing and why that's important for your mental health. And our people, original people, we've suffered a whole lot of systemic trauma caused by our government, especially the ones living here in America. And our people are living abroad as well, with their respective governments as well, singling them out and doing, foul things to them too. But you definitely need to check into, different types of, mindful breathing exercises. There's all kinds of literature out there on the internet. There's all types of mindful breathing communities within our community. Certified, licensed practitioners of it. So, like in anything, you always have to find yourself in it and make sure it's for you. So there's a whole lot of our people doing that now. So just find one of our people that is a, certified, licensed, and know what they're talking about to join their community and participate in mindful breathing. It'll elevate your mood and elevate your lifestyle. If you breathe correctly, you will move correctly. Metaphorically and literally. So that's it, and that's all. That was this week's health and wellness tip here on the Narrative Podcast. The next section is a new section added specifically for this month, Black History Month. I got a couple of Black History facts for you. So, Black History fact number 1, the legacy of John White Law Lewis, his name's kind of a mouthful. John White Law Lewis, and he built the first luxury hotel in 1916 called the White Law. He was a son of an enslaved African. He also set up the first black-owned national bank in America. And it was called Industrial Savings Bank. It was built by the first registered African-American architect, Isaiah T. Hanton. Him and Hanton would later go on to partner up to build the White Law Hotel. It was built by black laborers on opening day. Like 20,000 people showed up for the grand opening. It cost $158,000 to build it. It became a population destination for tourists and businessmen. It closed due to declining sales. The sales started declining after segregation because there wasn't really a need for it anymore or people thought it wasn't. You know, they hit us with that whammy, with that segregation. That's why we don't have a whole lot of our own anything anymore. That was the primary reason of segregation. Like, we was cool on being segregated. We just didn't want them coming into our neighborhoods messing with us, because like during segregation, that was allowed. Like, you know, white people would come into our neighborhoods and vandalize our neighborhoods, beat us up. Police wouldn't do nothing about it. Not too different from now. Destroy our businesses just for shits and gigs, pardon my language. But that's primarily why that, you know, hotel closed down. And then also, you know, other regulation, fines and fees assessed by the government, zoning fines and fees, you know, aka N-word tax, hard R. In 1991, the Manny Incorporation acquired the rights to the White Law Hotel. The building reopened in 1992 as apartments and is now deemed a national landmark. And just so you know, I'm giving you guys the condensed version. The story is like lots more complex than that. I just gave you the highlights of it. There's like a whole bunch of stuff, you know, that the history surrounding that hotel is more, you know, complex and robust than that. I'm just giving you the highlights to, you know, stay in stride with my time limit. Next order of business, talk about the brother Benjamin Banneker. And this is kind of like a rudimentary person. He was born on, and I say rudimentary because we already know the thing that he's most, you know, the history accredits him most for. He was born in 1731, Baltimore, Maryland. He was a naturalist, an astronomer, an almanac author, a landowner, a surveyor, and a farmer. You know, history mostly accredits with him with surveying and constructing pretty much all of Washington, D.C., you know, the White House, all the D.C. monuments, you know, came from him. He surveyed the land and, you know, was a key integral part of, you know, constructing Washington, D.C. But something history doesn't kind of fall short on the mark with. He created the first functioning clock here in the U.S. It was a wooden clock, and he patented it in 1753. So like a person named George Ellicott gave him all the resources and tools that he needed to, you know, have to enable to construct the clock. It was based off astrology. Something that original people created. If you know, you know. We created, astrology, astronomy, architecture. All of that came from us. Like I said, I'm just giving you the streamlined, condensed version of that to stay in stride with my time limit that I'm coming up on. But that was the life and times of the brother Benjamin Banneker. So join me into giving a Warm Narrative Podcast round of applause to our ancestors, John Whitelaw Lewis and Benjamin Banneker. Oh yeah, and can't forget the brother Isaiah T. Hatton either, for all what they did, for us. All right, moving right along to my speaking points. And my speaking point is basically like commentary on current events, things happening globally, things happening nationally, or things happening, specifically within our community. And the reason why I do that is to basically, unpack whatever's going on in the world from our perspective, because the media goes out of their way to have us looking and sounding crazy. So if history hasn't taught us anything, it's taught us this: if you don't tell your own story, your story will be told for you. So that's why I do my little, social commentaries about, news bites that I feel is like noteworthy to talk about, because they'll tell our story for us. So this is me telling our story with the speaking point of the day. So I got a couple stories that I want to lay on you. There's a whole lot, but not a whole lot, you know what I mean? I'm kind of glad nothing's going on in the entertainment industry. Our industry is kind of quiet, and I'm cool with that. It's kind of boring out there in the entertainment streets. Globally, Trump's trumping. The legislator is legislating. Senate senating. Nothing new, nothing really new. No new developments that I feel is like noteworthy. But I do want to follow up on a story that I covered. If you was with me, I believe on my full episode last week, kind of part 2 to it, about Daryl George. So if you just joined me over the weekend last week, young brother named Daryl George was going to trial. He had been suspended for most of the school year of 23 for the school said he was in violation of dress code policy because he had locks. And their school dress code policy, this happened in Texas, was that no student can have, for the boys, they cannot have their hair past their ears or touching their collar. Now, like I said, he had locks, but his locks were done up. There wasn't touching his earlobe. There wasn't touching his collar. And then they also have a special law in Texas called the Crown Act. And the Crown Act basically says, employers and businesses cannot, discriminate, refuse service or refuse, job opportunities to original people based on their hairstyle. So you can't, in the state of Texas, not hire somebody because they got locks, or if a sister, got Bantu wraps, or, it's just basically an anti-ethnic discrimination policy. So the part 2 to this story is today, because it was going to trial. So trial is already adjourned. Basically, the court said it didn't violate the Crown Act because the school policy was addressing length. And then, the school is still wrong because the young man did not violate the school policy because his hair did not touch his collar and didn't touch his earlobe. He had it done up. So they could easily at that school, say if he didn't have locks, if he had an afro. And I'm going to say something that I wanted to say last time, but I ran out of time. That is a primary example right there why we need our own institutions at all grade levels in every state in the United States, because they're not going to teach us correctly, and they're not going to handle our children with care, and they're not going to be sensitive to our cultural identities. They're not. So not saying you can't get a decent education at an Ivy League college or, predominantly white grade school, middle school, or high school, but they're not going to be receptive to your cultural identity, and they're not going to try to accommodate your cultural identity. That's why we need our own schools. And I don't know why that's a bizarre fact, or why that comes across when we do it as tribalism, when, the people in the tiny hat community, they got their own school that they have to attend for I think 6 months out of a year. There's Asian schools, there's Spanish schools, there's all Asian schools. Now they even got schools in the LMNOP community. They got their own school and their own curriculum. But that's what I'm saying in that case. We need our own schools. So that's all I want to speak on that. Next in the hit my radar, and I'm on the late freight because this happened last year, but there's been some new developments in it. I gotta say, I ain't heard of it. So apparently there was a brother unalived in Mississippi. He went to Mississippi he's originally from Milwaukee. He had gotten to a long distance relationship with a young lady that lived in Mississippi. The brother's name is James Cooper. And so they found Brother Cooper in Mississippi, unalived and hanging from a tree. Now, this is giving me Yolanda Lubrin vibes. So, what happened was, like I said, it was a long distance. I'm not going to give you the entire blow by blow. You can just do your own Googles. But basically, he was in a long distance relationship with a young lady that lived in Mississippi. He lives in Milwaukee. He went up there. I don't know the extent of their relationship, what was going on. But basically, she didn't want to be with him no more. It fizzled like long distance relationships do. But, he went missing for a few days. His mother, living in Milwaukee, wondered what happened to him. He wasn't checking in, which was unlike him. I think he went missing around the 10th of that year, in May. It happened in May 23. So, first, second week of May, he had went missing. He had been messing with her, doing a long distance relationship thing, since 22. And then I guess they started getting traction in 23, started doing visits and everything. That was just doing a long distance relationship thing, texting and FaceTiming and all that. So he starts going up to see her. Some time passes, and they found him just dangling from a tree, with a cord, an extension cord around his neck, zip ties on his fingers. Now, the person that came out, the initial, person to do the forensics on the scene, that initial person said they suspected foul play. Now, fast forward to now it's released by that police department that they don't suspect any foul play. It was suicide, just like they said with Yolanda Lubrin. So, moral of the story is always let your people know what you're doing. Even in your personal life, like my people, PSA, when you go out to the club, for the people that still go out to clubs, partying, when you're going out to a nightclub, when you're hanging out with some friends, when you're going on to a different side of town that you don't normally be on, check in with somebody. I don't know how in our culture, checking in is soft and weak and lame. Let your people know, where you're going, what you're doing, who you hanging out with. You need to let somebody know something. Because we're all grown, but we ain't that grown. You feel me? Your personal business is your personal business. But you see, in this instance, nobody knows anything. So you need to have somebody in your life. Because a lot of us, we want to be keeping to ourselves. And as the new wave saying is, guard your energy. I don't want to hang out and I don't want to tell people about my business. I keep my business because I keep people out of my business. I get it. But the time and era that we're living in, you have to tell somebody you trust well enough about your whereabouts. So if something happens to you, they know what to do. They know, who to question, who to come at, to get the investigation rolling, That's why you need to let people know what you're doing at all times, at least somebody in your circle, somebody in your family, somebody in your circle. Down for day one that you can tell, hey, I'm going to the club, hey, I'm going to the hotel, men and women. Especially brothers, because brothers, we got that, that macho thing. I ain't checking in with nobody. Shoot, I can handle anything. I keep my, I keep my blank with me, and I wish it would. I ain't checking in with nobody. I ain't scared of nothing. So more of the story, check in with somebody. It's tragic what happened to this brother. A lot of question marks. I think his mom got like a GoFundMe, Justice for James # movements going on. So, yeah, another one. As what DJ Khaled said, another one. Just unexplained, unalived, and, well, we already know what happened. It's in the South. He was hanging from a tree in the South. Like, do we have to spell it out? Because they definitely ain't going to spell it out. But that's my concludes my speaking points this week here on the Narrative Podcast. Next section is my final word section. My final word of the day. My final word of the day is just something deep, meaningful, philosophical. A wise word of wisdom. Just something you can contemplate about, think critically on. Just something to ponder. A gem, a jewel, whatever you want to call it. But, my word of the day, sometimes it's word of the day, sometimes it's final word of the day, last word of the day. I kind of alternate back and forth between final thought and final word. When it's final word, it's just like a word, but means so much. But then a final thought is usually like, a phrase, something people say all the time. But today is a final word of the day week here on the Narrative Podcast. And the final word of the day here on the Narrative Podcast is losing. Losing has become a bad word. Nobody likes to lose, but the thing about losing, it's essential. You have to lose. People get it twisted when you lose. They think because you lose, you have lost. But when you lose, you actually learn. And everything you lose isn't a loss, because sometimes it benefits you in the long run. So when one door shuts, another door is opening. So if you really want to break it down, the word lose is an illusion. Losing is an illusion. You're not losing, you're learning. You understand? Like everybody wants to win. It feels great to win, but nobody wants to lose. When you play a game, you got to be a winner and there got to be a loser. It can't be both. But when you lose, you learn. Because when you win, it's a euphoric rush. You accomplish something, you complete it, you set out a task, but all the winners is currently winning right now in whatever industry, whether it's in the financial world, whether it's an entrepreneur, whether it's somebody in the entertainment industry, business owner, or just like looks like they're winning in life. In a healthy relationship, got a good family, or they got married, or got a stable relationship, good friendship, good circle. You know how many times they lost before they got to that point? Like losing is essential. You're going to lose, all throughout life. Losing never stops. Some losses are slight, Some, like people, hit rock bottom and like literally lose everything. They lose all their family, their friends. They even lose a little piece of their sanity. But every time you lose, it's not a loss. It's only a loss when you don't learn. So when you lose, take that time to reflect. How could I do that better? What could I do differently? Instead of complaining about losing. Like losing hurts, it don't feel good. Especially like if you're a fighter, like a boxer or a martial artist. Losing then definitely don't feel good. No, that type of loss don't feel good at all. Ouch, ouch, ouch. But it's essential. Because when they lose, like fighters, boxers, and martial artists, they learn. They go back, they study their craft, and they come back and kick butt next time. The ones that's serious about it, the one that's really passionate about, the art of fighting. But, like I said, losing is essential. You have to lose. You have to lose to advance. You have to give something up in life. And a lot of times we lose big time because we want to latch on to the thing that we need to let go. We want to hold on to it for dear life, and it's hurting us, and we don't even realize it because we don't want to lose it. What they say, like that's the first thing in the relationship. They say, I don't want to lose you. But losing is essential. You have to give something up. Life is all about quid pro quo. It's something for something, not something for nothing. You have to come up off of something to get something. You can maintain your morals and dignity. I'm not saying give that up. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying losing is essential. We've all lost something. We've all lost someone. But it is important. And you must lose in order to learn. So the final word today here on the Narrative Podcast is lose. Well, I hope I don't lose y'all. Join me next week for another full episode of the Narrative Podcast. In the meantime, keep your ear out all throughout the weekday, wherever you get your podcast information from. I do weekday uploads of the Narrative Podcast during the weekday as well. I just never know what day I'm going to be able to do it. They're just super random. Now, I used to be able to go live, but this platform has omitted the live function, so now it's just recorded. But definitely check me out just all throughout the weekday. And how you don't miss a weekday episode of the Narrative Podcast is to follow me on YouTube, my YouTube channel, Halsey Allen. Hit the subscription button, notification button, all. Or Twitter, X, formerly Twitter. Because this platform, when I'm done recording, it automatically uploads to YouTube and Twitter. So, like I said, that's the best way to catch a weekday episode of the Narrative Podcast is to follow me on YouTube and Twitter. And I'm Halsey Allen on X as well. I just can't get used to saying X, but yeah, you know what it is. Also, I've written a book of poetry available on poetizer.com. Poetizer.com has a virtual bookstore. And the name of my book is called The Black Card. And the black card basically is a 30-page book of poetry. It encompasses our entire essence as a people, our people and our culture. It's just a comprehensive look about us as a people and our culture. Basically, it's a survival guide, to make a good coffee table read, travel book, chillax book. But definitely do yourself a favor. Go on poetizer.com's virtual bookstore and purchase my book, The Black Card, for your reading enjoyment today. Purchase the black card or get your black card revoked. And then next, I got a poetry blog on blogger.com called Hallzies Poetry Corner, and the address is www.mrhallziesblogs.com. The tagline for that is poetry with a passion, poetry for all occasions. When you read one of my poems featured on Hallzies Poetry Corner, you'll find out why. The poems featured on Hallzies Poetry Corner are just a collection of my poetry that I spontaneously write in the moment. They're so creative and intricate, you would think like I sat down and contemplated about the subject and the title, but that's just, quite the contrary. It's just like kinetic. Absolutely no thought goes into the poems. It's just like, it's just pure, just spit, like whatever device screen I'm in front of, or at the desktop, I just post to that blog, and that's what it is, But it's incredibly inventive and witty and charming. You will definitely find a poem that you can relate to on Hallzies Poetry Corner. And to support my poetry blog, just share the link to Hallzies Poetry Corner, www.mrhallziesblogs.com, or a poem featured on Hallzies Poetry Corner across all platforms. Like share it on your Facebook, your Twitter, your whatever you're active on. For the visual ones, like the YouTube and the TikTok, you might need to shout my poetry blog out. But definitely check it out. Hallzies Poetry Corner, poetry with a passion, poetry for all occasions. And that will do it for this episode of the Narrative Podcast, guys. Peace, family. Thanks for listening. Join me next weekend for another full edition of the Narrative Podcast. Remember to download this episode and all previously recorded episodes of the Narrative Podcast. I'm Halsey Allen. I'm changing the narrative one episode at a time. I'm asking you to join my cause by becoming a narrator. And while I'm changing the narrative one episode at a time, as a narrator, you can help me change the narrative by changing the narrative on your social media platform, one social media post at a time. Until next time, Halsey Allen and the Narrative Podcast signing off. And it's like that.
You are now listening to the Narrative Podcast with Halsey Allen. The Narrative Podcast is changing the narrative one episode at a time.